Corinne.
And I'm Callie.
And this is the Book Common Room podcast. Hi, welcome back to the Book Common Room podcast. We're so excited for you guys to join us for another episode. We're super stoked for the book of this month, Dune.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Maybe before we jump into it, we share the books we've been reading lately.
Okay, guys, I have an actual problem. I haven't read anything. Nothing.
That's okay. It happens. You get in a slump.
No, you know what it is? No, I have a problem, guys, because The Last of Us TV show has been coming out, right? Mm-hmm. Season 2. If you haven't watched it yet, you got to get on it. Anyways, but that, story has just taken over my life. I don't know if this ever happens to you. I can't consume anything else. If that makes sense.
No, I get that.
I am just trying to find another story that's, captivating me as much as that story is. Because, I don't even really know how to explain it. I have started reading so many books, but I'll get, 20 pages in, and I'm like, okay, I'm bored. Let's go play the game.
No, okay, that's a real thing, though. When you find something that just absolutely consumes you, mm-hmm. and, trying to find something to replace the emptiness you feel when you finish it, it's a hard task.
I know. Well, just the whole, everything about it has consumed me. Because there's so much debate on, different topics in the, within the adaptation that's coming out.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. I get obsessive.
That's okay. I think we all have those moments.
So the answer is nothing, and it's a problem.
It's okay. I can show you all the books I've started, but have not read. And one of them I talked about last time. Okay, here we go. The first one was Kristen Hanna's The Great Alone. I am not even a quarter way through, but I do really like it. Part of the reason is because I needed to read this.
This tome over here.
Never read it before, so I kind of had to take a break. But I started The Great Alone, and I really like it. It's definitely a different pace of what I usually read, and I know I talked about it last time, so we don't need to repeat too much stuff. But really like it. I started The Great Chain of Being. I don't know if you've heard about this book. This was recommended to me by a professor a super long time ago, and it's by Arthur O. Lovejoy. Mm-hmm. And it's a lot more theological minded. It's kind of I don't know, going through the history of an idea. Mm-hmm. And he was like, you should read this. You'd really like it. And I was like, okay, I'm on page 7. So
like this.
When I'm I feel like I need to be intellectual, I will pick this up. So I have too many moving pieces, and then I just started this book because I couldn't help myself. Me and my little sister, we went to the bookstore the other day because we've been wanting this. I don't know if you've heard of this. Have you heard of Wings of Starlight?
No, but it looks cute.
Okay, look at how cute this cover is.
It's cute.
But it's by Allison Saft, and it's one of the New York Times best-selling author books that are of the many that are out right now. But it's I don't know if fan fiction is the correct term for this yet, but it's about Neverland, about Pixie Hollow Neverland.
Cute.
So it's the fairies, from Tinkerbell and stuff. But it's before all of that, it's why why is the queen the queen? Why did she get there? And then she falls in love with this winter fairy, and it's actually really sad. But anyways,
no, yeah, isn't there a Tinkerbell movie where they mention that? Mm-hmm. Is it about that?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so fun.
It's a little story about that, and I've actually really enjoyed her writing so far. It's very whimsical.
Yes.
And so me and my little sister went and got that, and we're gonna read that together. So these are the books we're reading. I probably will finish this and then do Kristen Hanna, and then Great Chain of Being may just be the book of the year that I'll be slowly working through.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's just the name of those books. But other than that, Dune was the only one I completed. And barely.
I know.
Barely.
Well, luckily I read Dune recently, so I was recent enough that I didn't feel like I needed to reread it, or else I would have
gone crazy.
I would have been on the cuff of, we gotta finish
Yeah. Oh, girl. No, it's all good. Yeah, I had to read this in a week because I procrastinated.
You did it, though.
But I did it. I had little markers to be like, you have to read up to this point every single day.
It's like
and
school.
I did pull from an audio book on YouTube that was for free.
Love it.
Which really helped. It came out September of last year, and if that didn't come out, I would have been screwed. So glad I'm here with you guys today. But let's jump into it. Callie went on a freaking deep dive, which is amazing.
I don't know why I keep doing this. It's just, I think I just have an obsessive personality, and as soon as I get interested in something, I have to just do it, if that makes sense. Yeah. And I have to do it all the way.
Yes. It's all good. I think, honestly, it enriches our, discussions. So,
yeah.
We're probably going to just do what we usually do, where we deep dive into the author, non-spoilers with this episode, and then go into, the impact of Dune and, in the genre of sci-fi and what is sci-fi.
Yes.
Because that's going to be discussed.
That's that is a controversial what is sci-fi. I didn't know that was controversial till a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm still kind of interesting. I don't know how I feel.
I don't know either.
I think I definitely have one way. We'll get into this. I have one way that I do lean, but I also don't know.
I'm sure there's a textbook way people look at it, but for me personally, I have some thoughts.
I tend to I'll hear someone's opinion. I'm I can kind of see that.
Yeah.
Anyways, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
So, who the heck was Frank Herbert? I didn't know until I started doing research. So, one thing I want to say before we get into who he was, long story short, he lived a very messy life. And I do think it's important to talk about his life enough so that you kind of understand who he was. But I also want to, it's kind of back to our J.K. Rowling whole thing where it's he wasn't the best human being in the world. But I do think that two things can be true at once. He wasn't the best human being in the world. He made some mistakes. And individually, you can decide what you're going to do with that information. But he also created Dune, which is this massive legacy that has influenced so much.
And you can't ignore that.
Literature, and you can't ignore that aspect of it. So I think at least in my opinion, I think it's very nuanced. And you just kind of, we want to give you the information. Do with it what you will.
Yes.
But yeah, I also live for the drama, so I just thought it was very interesting.
I think that was a really good caveat.
Yeah.
Because it's true. And I feel we don't have to get too deep into it. But
no.
I think that was perfect.
Okay, so who was Frank Patrick Herbert? I'm going to go through this a little bit quickly because we have a lot of stuff we want to cover.
A lot of ground to cover.
But his life was very interesting. So he was born October 2nd, 1920 in Tacoma, Washington. His parents were alcoholics. So he grew up during the Great Depression, and I think his mom couldn't get a job, and his dad just had he had a bunch of little jobs here and there to make money. But they were
jobs?
Odd jobs, but they were very, very poor. And so they both drank a lot of alcohol. There wasn't a lot out there on exactly how his childhood was, but we do know that he wasn't happy. When he was about 15-ish years old, he sold a Western story to a newspaper for $27.50. And he took him and his younger sister, who was 5 at the time, and escaped his parents. Oh. He bought a bus ticket and moved to Oregon.
Okay.
He moved to Oregon and sought refuge with his aunt and uncle. And then he finished high school at Salem High School in 1939. But he almost didn't graduate high school.
Oh, dang.
He flunked a lot of classes and he dropped a lot of classes. But I think he was a lot of things that I read, people speculated he was probably a troubled teen. Grew up with alcoholic parents. And he knew from the age of 8 he wanted to be an author. That was his thing. He knew he wanted to be an author, so he, throughout his life, got a ton of jobs with different journals. But he didn't like having a boss.
So he was publishing fiction works though. They weren't it wasn't journalism.
Depends on where he was working.
Okay.
He kind of did everything. He started off editing, and then he also took pictures for some journals.
Okay.
He kind of did everything under the umbrella.
Yeah, of like writing and publishing.
Of writing and publishing, yeah. We don't have enough time to like go through exactly where and what he did, but he kind of just did all of it.
Yeah.
But his main dream was to become a published author, like traditional author with a novel that was in paperback that you could go and buy at a bookstore. But for most of his life, he wrote like a ton of stuff, but none of it was really... He couldn't, like, sell most of it, or it would get published in a newspaper, and he just wasn't becoming as big as he wanted to be. Yeah. So, fast forward, he moves to California. He works for the Glendale Star, and he gets married to Flora Parkinson. And after that, just a year after that, he enlisted to the Navy. It was after Pearl Harbor. And he sadly tripped over a tent tie-down and suffered a head injury and was honorably discharged. Isn't that so sad? He, like, enlisted to go to the Navy, to go to, like, World War II, and he trips over a tent and gets sent home.
That's so sad.
Isn't that so sad? And the other sad thing is he comes home, and he's, like, he has a daughter at this point, a wife and a daughter, and they're missing. They're just gone. He can't find them. And so he's like, where the heck is my wife and daughter? Come to find out, his mom and, like, his in-laws were, like, hiding his wife. And From him. And this is the other thing about his life when I was doing research. It's all very alleged, and there's not a lot of, like, ground exactly what happened. Mm-hmm. But we do know that they got divorced, and... Like, I tried to find out why exactly. People think it's because of the stress of the war. They got married really fast. He also wasn't, like, the greatest husband and father. He put, like, his work, his writing above everything. So, and, like, he was, like, overly ambitious, not present. And so, like, there's probably some stressors there. People also speculated that their personalities probably just didn't work out. So they just... Lots of things together. They got divorced. Yeah. So he moves, and he gets remarried to Beverly Stewart Forbes, and a lot of the Bene Gesserit witches and stuff like that background came from her.
Like, she thought of it?
So, no, well, they considered her a white witch. She never, like, took on the title of white witch, but when people described her, they called her a white witch because she would believe things, like, in the occult, mysticism, and divination. She was known to palm read, consulted in the I Ching. It's like an ancient Chinese divination text. Whoa. So that's where a lot of the Bene Gesserit, like, witch lore comes from. And then her friends and family just, like, they claimed that she had, like, crazy intuition. Like, she could, like, find things that were just lost. And then she could, like, sense when things were about to happen. Whoa. So... She was like a witchy type person.
Okay, all right.
And he had 2 sons, Brian and Frank. So for most of his life, he was basically running away from the IRS and his ex-wife, who was trying to get child support.
Oh my gosh,
so
he wasn't supporting their
kid? He
kid?
wasn't paying his child support. Well, it's because he was poor. So he would, like, they would move around a bunch, and he'd work at various different journalisms, but he wasn't getting paid a lot. And his wife wrote for, like, different... She wrote ads also, but she wasn't getting a lot of money from it.
Yeah.
So he, like, racked up a ton of debt and wasn't paying any of it. And then he was not paying child support, so... Oof. Brian, in his biography about his father, in it he said they moved to like 20 different homes in his whole childhood. Wow. And at one point he even got caught. Like, the law found him, and he was getting sued from his ex-wife.
Oh my gosh.
So they moved to Mexico to escape it all. And that's where he discovered mushrooms and different psychedelic drugs. Which, again, comes into Dune.
Spice.
With the spice.
Yeah.
And, like, how that affects your brain. So when they moved back from Mexico to... I'm jumping forward pretty quickly. When they moved back from Mexico to Washington, he makes his own, like, mushroom farm. And he becomes obsessed with, like, the science behind spores. Ooh. And, like, how if, like, you... Like, spores... basically take over everything,
Like a parasite.
Like a parasite, basically. So kind of how the spice, like if you breathe it in or ingest it, that's how you get
And you're hooked
high.
on it for the rest of your life.
Yeah, so that's kind of where that haul came from. And then within his, like, tons of moving and stuff like that, he met a bunch of people. He worked for a couple politicians. They weren't successful politicians, which is fine. I don't know anything about them other than that he worked for them. And that's where he learned about politics. So, like, a lot of the politics in the Dune world comes from
His observation.
His observation of how the, like, our politics today kind of are set up.
Interesting.
And, like, some of the corruption he saw back then within that world, too.
Yeah.
So, he also, within this, he started learning more about Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. He got very obsessed with, like, the three major religions of the world, and how all of them started in a desert place. So there's another desert thing. So within, he's like seeing this trend with sand dunes. And so then he becomes obsessed with the science behind sand dunes. So he like starts to build this world of Arrakis. And he had been writing his whole life. And he, again, like I said, he tried to publish other things. He started off writing Western stories, which didn't ever really come of anything. And then he started to move on to science fiction, but that never really got into anything. And then it was pretty late in his life. He finally got a decently steady job. He worked for a politician that did win, and he wrote speeches.
Oh.
So he was able to get like consistent money for his family so they were like could settle. And that's when he created Dune.
Got it.
And originally it was supposed to be published in a newspaper in 3 different, what do you call them? Series, yeah. And then a publisher picked it up and was like, hey, we like this. We'll publish the whole thing.
Oh.
And then we'll also publish anything else you want to do after
awesome.
that. So then he publishes Dune, and it wasn't popular initially. It took a couple years. But he started to, like, really get, like, very quickly a huge fan base. Tons of people were reading it. And he finally got his dream of being an author. He became very wealthy.
He could, like, live off of his writing.
He could live off of his writing. His wife, Beverly, she ended up getting cancer. And so they moved to Hawaii. He built, like, this whole house just for her in Hawaii. So she could, like, live out her days there until she passed. And within the same time, his sons are grown-ups and have moved on. But he has Brian, his oldest, I'm pretty sure, move back and work for him.
Okay.
And he becomes his bookkeeper. He's the one that eventually starts writing more Dune books after. So Frank Herbert wrote 6 books before he passed. And then Brian kept it going.
Yeah. Aren't there like 16 or something? He wrote like 10
something
more.
like that. There's a lot. But he was his dad's bookkeeper for a long time because his dad was in a lot of debt.
Yep.
So he was like, okay, I will fix this, I guess.
Yeah.
So that was just kind of the life of Frank Herbert very quickly in a nutshell. One other big piece of information to know about him is he wasn't the best father in the world.
Well noted from his last marriage.
Yeah, and so to combat the whole not paying child support, he actually had his daughter Penny move in with him when she was like 17 years old.
Oh.
So then he didn't have to pay for child support because she was living with him.
What was his ex-wife doing? She was fine with this?
See, I couldn't find anything. Anything that I found, it was all the in-laws, like speculating, saying stuff. This, again, his life was very messy, and it was kind of hard to
trace.
find things.
Yeah.
So, like, it was established and known that he wasn't the best father. He was obsessive about writing, especially when he was writing the first book, Dune. He would lock himself in his house, and he wouldn't let his sons in the house until their mom got home. So it would be, like, snowing outside, and they would be stuck out until his mom got home.
Oh, my gosh.
And then, this is speculation. His son has come out and said that it's not entirely true, but he was also the one that said it was true at first. So it's messy, but he was in the Navy, so he raised his kids with a lot of really strict very, very strict rules. And if he felt like his sons were lying, he would beat them until they would tell the truth.
Oh, boy.
So he was just a very, very authoritative, strict toxic parent, who was just very obsessive, very ambitious. And his son, Frank, he was gay, so he came out as gay, and he just, like, he kicked his son out. And was like, he couldn't grapple with that. He was convinced that his son, like, chose it. Basically, like, against his father.
Oh, jeez.
So, Frank moved, and he sadly died of AIDS in 1933. So, he wasn't the best. He did do some good things. I think he did truly love Beverly, and did a lot for his wife, but he...
wasn't a good
basically everybody else in his life he just kind of like abused and just used for his own gain. But Paul was kind of like that.
Paul was fine until like, well, we'll get into that later.
We'll get into that. So that's just the facts of his life. He lived a very, very messy life, moved a lot, but because of all of his experiences and the people he met and the places he lived, he gained the knowledge to create this massive story. Dune. Okay, how was that?
That was brilliant.
Did that make any sense?
No, it did. I feel like we had to weave through those things because, like, at different pit stops throughout his life is what added to him being able to create Dune. And so, like, especially, like, his little escapades to Mexico to escape the law also handedly, like, was like something that bled into the world of Dune. And honestly adds a very interesting aspect to the book. And so I felt like that was incredible. There's a lot more information she went into, but she definitely like skimmed over to get to the important parts.
Oh yeah, there were lots of dates, lots of names that it's okay, we don't need to know all that.
But I thought that was great. I think he definitely lived a messy life, and it's interesting because I feel like that complexity is definitely an important part of Dune in itself.
Oh, 100%.
Like, Paul's whole life is a mess.
Oh, yeah. It's a huge mess.
But there's just, I don't know, it's definitely interesting. I feel like the politics of Dune is so fun and fascinating.
Oh, so fascinating, yeah. This book has got layers.
It really does. And it, like, we would need... like a whole class and just sit down to break this down. But we are probably just going to be pretty surface level, even though we did ourselves like deep dive into the world of Dune. Me for the reading and Callie on the research side for sure. But I do feel like this is a natural segue into Frank Herbert's impact as a writer within the world of sci-fi and like what would become sci-fi. And I'm sure like so many storytellers have been inspired by Dune. I think of like a lot of the 70s movies like that were like sci-fi, like they've definitely like pulled from Dune. And so let's dive into the sci-fi genre and our thoughts with regards to like adaptations of sci-fi we see today.
I know this one. I said we wanted to talk about Dune. I was really excited to talk about Paul and like the politics and the characters. But as we were setting up and doing research, I was like, wow, there's actually a lot of controversy behind kind of this whole book. And like how it's like just kind of everything about it. It surprised me.
I know. And I remember being younger and like growing up and watching Star Wars. And my parents had showed me the 80s Dune.
See, I've never seen it.
Scared me. It really did. There was this creature in it that scared me so much, and I just remember watching it, and I was like, the movie itself felt like it was on drugs. So I was like,
fair.
Yes, it is fair for the context. But I just remember being a kid and being like, this makes me feel weird. But I loved Star Wars. But when I watched Star Wars, I was like, whoa, Star Wars is like similar to Dune. Like it gives off the same vibe. Like, I don't know, because it's like space. But then my sister like brought this up while I was like pretty little still. And she was like, I don't know if Star Wars is sci-fi. And I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean?
It's in space.
And she's like, I'm like, it's in space and like they have crazy technology. And she's like, sure, but like the main plot of the story is very epic fantasy. And then if you look it up today, people will say Star Wars is a space fantasy or a space opera.
Yeah. Which makes sense.
Yes. Yeah. And I was like, so what is science fiction? If whenever I think science fiction, I think Star Wars.
Me too. I think Star Wars, Star Trek, like anything that has a lot of like
space,
like futuristic
exploration,
like technology type thing. I just lump it sci-fi. Like I would even say dystopian is like sci-fi-y.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like I feel that in like Hunger Games, maybe even a little bit.
Because it's like in the future and there's like technology that's more advanced.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when she said that, I was like, oh, that's so interesting because like I'd be curious to know in a survey if you just pulled someone aside and say like, when you think sci-fi, what do you think of?
Yeah.
Like in books or movies. And like some people who really know what science fiction is probably will like I would say Frankenstein could be considered a science fiction for sure. But like, what would people say? And I feel like most people would say Star Wars.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But I think Star Wars isn't as sci-fi as we think. So what is sci-fi? So like, if we say Dune has influenced sci-fi, and everyone keeps kind of like circulating and regurgitating that same kind of phrase.
Yeah.
Like, what does that actually mean? What is sci-fi?
What is sci-fi? I know. Well, so if you just Google what sci-fi is, I'm just going to read it. So according to the Oxford Dictionary, science fiction is fiction based on imagined future scientific or technological advances and major social or environmental changes, frequently portraying space or time travel and life on other planets. According to Oxford Dictionary, that is what sci-fi is.
I need like an archetype I can follow to be like, but I know archetypes is like more like about characters, but I need like a formula. Because I feel like
this equals sci-fi.
Yeah, because I feel like there's so many elements of Dune that feel like sci-fi, but there's also so many aspects of it that make it feel more like an epic fantasy.
So I took a genre class in college, and we mostly focused on short fiction, like short novels, short stories.
Yeah.
I don't know why I said that weirdly.
That's
short
okay.
stories. But within short stories, we talked about different genres within the genre.
Yeah.
And one of them was science fiction.
Yeah.
And my professor was one of those people that was like,
Star Wars
is not science
Sci-fi.
fiction.
Oh.
It's
All
not
right.
sci-fi. It is fantasy. He was one of those people. And so we read the book that Arrival is based on.
Yes, I forgot what that's called. What the original short story was.
Oh man, what was it?
And it's by Sue.
It's Chinese.
Yes, it is.
What the heck? Why didn't I write? I wrote everything down but that.
No, you're fine. Story of Your Life.
Yes,
that's
Story
what
of
it was
Your
called.
Life.
By Ted Ching.
Yes.
Chang?
Something like that.
Sorry, guys.
It's okay.
Chiang. So.
Yes.
There you go.
So we read that short story, and then I took another class from him later where we watched the movie Arrival, and basically he said, like in Arrival, there is a real scientific hypothesis that is on our world today, right now.
Yeah.
So like you take something that is here physically right now today, and then you expand on it.
I love that. That's
Yeah.
so smart to write that way because you give someone, like you give people some familiar grounding to be able to, because sometimes like reading Dune, like getting jumped into that, I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like I had to learn all the terms and he kind of spoke as if you already knew all this stuff. But like Arrival did it in a teachable way.
Literally.
Anyways.
It was, so Arrival is based on the, I think I'm saying this wrong, Sapir-Whorf hypothesis?
I don't know how else you would say it.
Something like that. Anyways, in a nutshell, the hypothesis is basically that language affects how you think. So if you speak English, your thoughts are physically different than someone who like isn't like Japanese.
Interesting.
Who speaks Japanese. Like your thoughts and perception of the world are like actually changed different. It's a lot deeper than that, but that's very basic level what it is.
We could have a whole podcast on that.
Literally. So like Arrival took that hypothesis and then put it in a world with aliens. So that's where like I think the science fiction gets a little like
messy,
like muddy.
Yeah.
Because then it is in a world where there's an alien, and then it's like exaggerates that hypothesis.
Yeah.
Where this character all of a sudden is now like, time is weird because of this language she's learning.
Yeah.
And so I think it could, with the aliens and the futuristic, it's a little muddy because that's what Star Wars is.
Yes.
It's in the future. It's in a galaxy far, far away.
But like you have people that still look like us and talk like us.
But is there like a hypothesis or scientific thing in Star Wars that it's like rooted in?
Yeah, because like you can still have like this. I feel like that's different from having like universal topics. Because like I feel like Dune and Star Wars are universal because it's like grappling with the nuances of good and bad.
Yes.
Because like I don't know, some movies are like good versus evil, but I feel like Star Wars and like Dune really show like how that can bleed and cross over. And that's like a timeless universal story, but it's not like a scientific hypothesis that is being built upon to create a world.
Right. See, I would argue that Dune is science fiction more than Star Wars is because of the science behind the sand dunes. Like how he put the science, the real world science on Earth right now.
Well, because didn't he study ecology too?
Yes, yeah, within his Dune world. And so he took this like real life science and then just expanded on it with aliens. But then he also took real life religions and like you could call those theories. I think he does.
Because he calls it the OC Bible.
Yes, yeah. And so like in his mind, like all of these religions are theories to him that's rooted in the book that's real life today.
Yeah.
And then expanded on it in a world with aliens and planets.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I would think it's more science fiction for sure. Interesting. I liked that. Okay. Because like some other thoughts that I had looked up was like Dune, like people are like, yeah, Dune is firmly science fiction. And the way they said it was like science fiction is a form of fiction, not a form of science. So its themes are scientific and Dune contains elements which might well be fantastic, but they are wrapped up in scientific explanation, less magical.
Interesting.
It's not as magical.
Yeah.
Like it's not like
you don't have lightsabers.
No.
Or the Force.
Or like see, that's the big thing. The Force seems more fantastical, more magical.
Yeah.
Than scientific. Lightsabers, maybe that could be scientific, but like the Force.
Scientists are trying to make them now.
Yeah. Are we really?
Yeah, have you not seen those? Like the real life lightsabers?
This is a hot take, but like so much like I feel like people do such cool stuff with like space exploration, sea exploration, like the dire wolves thing that's like people are like, wow. But also at the same time, I'm like, that's really cool. But also I need money. And that is a lot of money going to like really cool like things that like nerdy people want to do. But also like I get why those are really cool feats.
Yeah.
But anyways, but that was like a ramble. But I could go on. But anyways, I would agree with that. I feel like Dune is more sci-fi than I feel like Star Wars is. Just because of how George Lucas approached it. I definitely think it could have been sci-fi, but the way he like developed the characters, developed the plot, it felt far more epic fantasy.
Yeah. Like one of my favorite things about Star Wars is the order feels very Buddhist. Like it's very, very Buddhist.
Yeah.
And I think if maybe George Lucas wrote it more in that, like focus more on the Buddhism type of like the Jedi Order, it could have been more sci-fi. I loved how excited you were.
Oh, yeah. But also Star Wars politics are interesting.
They are super interesting. So, but because they more focus on the fantastical parts of it, like it does lean more like space opera-esque.
Yeah, especially with like the drama between all of the characters. But I do love Star Wars.
Yeah, we're Star Wars fans.
And I still, like, when I think of sci-fi, I still will think of Star Wars, even though, like, I know, like, there probably is more hardcore science fiction books you can pull from, but, like, at least for Dune, in our opinions right now, it feels firmly science fiction, but there are fantastical elements, for sure, in Dune. But, man, like, Dune is so good. It, like, blows my mind, and I really do recommend people reading this book.
Yeah.
Like, I know it's a beast of a book. movie adaptations, like if you're like, I can't handle it, the movies are great. Like the new movies are great.
That's a whole other topic we can get into with adaptations. Do we want to do that in this one or the next one?
I don't know. Maybe in the next one, because we can expand more, because we can actually say spoilers.
Okay.
Because I'm going to want to say a bunch of stuff that I can't say right now.
Yeah, that's fair. I'll just say a little bit.
If you are reading it right now, which, like, truly, like, use the audiobook. It is a fantastic tool. And he does all the voices. I'll link it. I'll link their YouTube in our podcast.
I love it. Yeah, so, like, I'll just say, without spoilers, that the adaptation, the newest one, amazing.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting because all of the die-hard Dune fans hate it.
Do they really?
Yeah.
I'm so surprised by that.
My dad listens to these podcasts, and I call him out all the time. But he hates the Lord of the Rings adaptations because the movie changes a lot of core stuff that he loves. Oh. And so a lot of Dune fans feel the same way. It changed a lot of core aspects that the Dune fans loved. And so they don't like it because of that. But as someone who, like, personally, I really, really enjoyed Dune. But there were certain aspects of it where I was like, that's a little weird. Or, like, I don't know if I love that much that the movie, in my opinion, fixed. Yeah. Or, like, changed enough that it was just easier to digest. Yeah. And I thought it was more exciting. Like, the book, I felt like, while the world was amazing, like, some of the events would happen, and I was like, oh, that's it? Yeah. Where in the movie, it was like, whoa.
See,
that was epic.
This is why movies are so important for me, is because, like, you can, like, I really do enjoy books, and I do feel like you can get in your own world, but movies just bring it to life, and it brings, like, a culture to life. Because you watch Dune, and you're exposed to sounds you've never heard before. And this,
Hans Zimmer, oh my gosh.
Hans Zimmer, like,
he's my hero.
I was obsessed with him, and then I went through, like, a phase where I'm like, oh, he's overrated. Like, what? Because I'm just like, well, because, like, I just feel like he pulls from all his old stuff, so it always sounds similar. So Hans Zimmer is kind of not like a typecast, but him, he's just like, you listen and you're like, oh, I know that's Hans Zimmer. Yeah. But then I, like, listened to Dune, and I'm like, I'm such a hater. Like, I do love Hans Zimmer. He's so great.
This is a tangent, but I was listening to a podcast about different composers. Yeah. And I kind of liked what this guy said. I don't remember what the podcast was, or else I'd say it. But he basically was like, John Williams is iconic because he writes iconic themes. Yes. Like, you'll go back and you'll listen to the theme, like the Harry Potter theme, or the Jaws theme. Yes. But Hans Zimmer and... Shoot, he did Oppenheimer. Ludwig.
He also did Mandalorian. We'll just go by Ludwig.
Ludwig.
Right Johansson or something like that.
Something like that. So him and Hans Zimmer, they write... So you could listen to the whole soundtrack. Like, I enjoy listening to John Williams soundtracks, but you really go for his theme. Yeah. Versus Hans Zimmer,
it's like experiential.
I'm going to listen to the whole thing.
You kind of, like, pirates. You want... Because he tells a story throughout the entire soundtrack. Yeah. Which, okay, I just need to add this. We can talk about it more in the next episode. But, okay. I personally do feel like, and I'm just going to preface this now and get into it later, that Dune is the new Dune with Denis... his last name is French.
I know.
But I pronounce it like
the Oscar.
But I like pronounce it like Spanish because it looks Spanish to me.
It does look Spanish. Yeah.
But... Denny,
who also did Arrival.
Yes.
Sorry,
Sci-Fi, fantastic. But I think Dune is a really good adaptation, but because it like pulls key concepts from the books that I feel like need to be told. And one of the songs in Hans Zimmer's album is called A Time Shingles.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
I literally marked it.
It's like a rest.
A time of quiet between storms.
Yes.
That's literally from the book. And he named it, and the way he uses the song is the way it's like referenced in the book, which is like between Paul and Chani. Yeah. And it's so good.
It's fun listening to Hans Zimmer talk about him making the score for it. Because he's like, they call that song the love story song. It's not a love song, though. It's just like the calm before the storm. Yeah. But he was kind of funny. He was like, the director, Dennis?
Yeah, I think they say Denny. They don't pronounce the S. Yeah.
Okay, Denny asked him to do it, and he's like, I got it.
Yeah.
I got this. And he immediately wrote both movies.
Yeah.
Even before this, because usually what happens, I just learned this, is people who are going to write the music for the movie, they'll film the movie first, and then the person will watch part of it.
Yes.
And then based on what they're seeing, they'll write the music for it.
Yeah.
He just did it.
Yep. Which he doesn't always do.
No.
He did that for Dune, though.
But for Dune, and the director was even like, hold on, you gotta wait a second.
Yeah.
You gotta wait for us to actually make the second one.
Yeah. But I thought it was incredible that how they used the entire soundtrack of Dune. Mm-hmm. And, like, just why I feel like movies are important is because, like, and like, I totally get why some people want to gatekeep books that are important to them.
Yeah. I mean, I currently, with Wuthering Heights, until I see that movie, I'm very upset with how they're going to make the movie.
Oh, I know. I feel like
I want to gatekeep Miss Bronte.
Miss Bronte. I personally think some of the Brontes should just be gatekept.
Yeah.
And just be like, don't make movies for these. Because
it can only exist in story form.
Yeah.
In book form.
I just feel like the Brontes are so hard to get, and Jane Eyre,
yeah,
still, like, there could be better adaptations of Jane Eyre.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
No, you're good. But I do feel like I understand why people gatekeep them, but I, like, look at stories like Lord of the Rings, and I look at what's happening right now with Dune, and I'm like, this is so great because I'm living through what it must have felt like for people when Lord of the Rings was coming out. Because Dune is such, to me, a good adaptation of a book that made me read the book.
I was about to say, I never would have read Dune if the movie didn't come out.
Yeah, and the movie came out, and then the part 2 came out, and I was like, oh my goodness, like,
I have to read this because
it's so complicated, it's so cool. Like, you even, like, root for horrible characters.
Oh, 100%.
Like,
like, the evil characters are just more evil.
Yeah.
I feel like the movie on its own stands and is really good, but the book just, I think, makes it better.
I agree.
Like, you read it and then you watch the movies and it's like, that's why that happened.
Yes.
I get it. That's so cool. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about certain parts.
Same. I'm like, I wish, like, I could go back for the first time and watch Dune Part 2 in IMAX. Like, that
so
experience.
good.
I feel like for the gatekeepers, just suspend your disbelief and just enjoy it as, like, a work of art. Because it literally does, like,
it is a work of art.
It feels like you're in a whole other world. And I love that. And I love that movies can do that with these kinds of books. And but yes, like, reading the book will enhance that experience. And so I want to read Dune Messiah.
Me too.
When it went for, like, this upcoming movie. Because I'm like, I want to read it before and then watch it.
Yep.
And then see, like, how the adaptation works.
My sister is halfway through Dune Messiah and she says it's weird. Like, even weirder than this one.
Oh no.
She's really liking it though, but when she reads for the world building. Yeah. And so she really likes it.
Oh, okay.
I read more for the characters, and I think that's where a lot of, like, my critiques come from. But she's like, the world's crazy.
The world is crazy. I think we all knew that,
is crazy.
We all kind of knew that, but
yeah.
There's so much to unpack with Dune. We're going to probably get into that in our next episode because, and I just hope we can do it in a cohesive way.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much. Like, you could probably do a 2-parter on just, like, breaking down easily.
I know. I hope we got you excited though for the book.
Yeah.
Gave you a little context where, like, a lot of the story came from and the author. But
because that stuff is interesting to me, at least. Like, I think
I had a lot of fun.
Authors. Yeah.
I was telling Lauren before we were filming, but I was sitting on my bed, just, like, cross-legged. I was literally like this, just, like, hunched over.
The computer hunch.
Reaching, and then, like, 4 hours later, I stood up straight, and I was like, oh, it hurts. Why did I do that?
My back will never be the same.
But it was fun. I like it. There's just a lot. I don't know. I feel like, how do I want to say this? Hold on. This is a tangent.
Okay.
So I feel like, as a not so good writer myself, I have been, like, thinking and, like, a lot about how, like, I wish I could just sit down and write something and publish it, and it'll just be good, and it'll be big. It'll just be good. Because I was listening to a podcast with Brandon Sanderson and B.E. Schwab. We'll have to link it. It's really good.
Yeah, send that link to me.
And they were talking about how Brandon Sanderson, I I feel kind of bad. I used to have a lot of critiques towards him.
Same.
But now that I've learned more about him, I've actually grown to really respect the man.
As an author in the industry and his support of like up and coming writers, I find that I like respect that a whole lot.
Oh, 100%. But he was talking to V.E. Schwab how he started writing when he was a teenager, and he would like write little fantasy stories, but he was almost embarrassed that he did it, so he'd hide them underneath his mattress. He was that nerd 15-year-old where if you found something hidden under his mattress, it would be these fake stories that he wrote.
That's actually so cute. Oh.
Right? But he wrote a lot of stories before, I think, was it Elantris was his first one that he published. He wrote a lot of, fact checked me. He wrote quite a few stories before that just didn't, like, really, nothing happened to them. They weren't good. They were actually very bad.
Yeah.
And he wasn't making...
Yeah, Elantris, you were right.
He wasn't making any money from it, and so he published Elantris, and then he signed on to publish Mistborn. And then, like, after that, it just, like, exploded for him. And I kind of appreciate that it took a lot of work.
Yeah.
He had to practice. He had to be bad before it actually, like, something stuck. Where I feel like Frank Herbert's like that.
Yeah.
He wrote his whole life. And it wasn't until, like, later in his life where he finally published Dune. And that's what, like, gave him traction. So I also kind of was, like, feeling a little bit better about myself.
Yeah.
Learning about all of this. Like, you know what? Sometimes you just got to go out and you got to write.
Yes.
And you have to be bad.
And you have to be okay.
And to let yourself be bad.
Because like, and I've talked to, like, close friends about this. And they're just like, even after you're done, you're already a better writer. So then you look back at your writing, you're like, ugh, like, that could have been better.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you did it, you wrote it, you just need to get it out. Because you'll always be working on it for forever. And like, that's the same with Rachel Smith when we did our Lore Olympus. Like, it took her a long time to ever get her foot in the door for the exact medium she was doing. And then there was a platform where people could access her artwork and the story. And sometimes, like, authors, I feel like, are ahead of their time because they're just waiting for the audience and the place to, like, reach their audience.
Yeah. I just feel like sometimes I beat myself up because I look at authors like R.F. Kuang.
Oh my gosh.
Who wrote The Poppy War. That was her debut novel.
And it was a series. And that's really hard to do.
Yeah. And it was only supposed to be, I think it's supposed to be 4 books. But she was like, no, it's only 3. But it was a debut novel series, and it immediately became super popular. Yeah. And she's just now big. And it's now just good.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's like, you know, it's okay.
There's authors like that, and then you have authors like Frank Herbert,
Brandon Sanderson, where it's like, you know what? You gotta do the work.
Yeah. And
not that R.F. Kuang doesn't do the work, but...
Yeah. And also, this is the other thing, and this can be like, we end on this for this episode. I remember, like, in one of my college classes, we were talking a lot about, like, sellouts. Kind of, like, writers that kind of became sellouts, and how, like, Wordsworth was a major popular author during British Romanticism. But then, as he got older, like, people, like, felt like he was a sellout because, like, of, like, how his writing was, like, more free when he was younger. And, like, more, like, about liberty and, like, I don't know. He was very political sometimes when he was younger, and then he got older and he became more conservative. Yeah. And, like, people were like, oh, he kind of, like, he is a sellout. And and the reason they also said that is because he is writing because he needs to survive. He needs to sustain, like, money, staying out of debt, his family, instead of,
like, Charles Dickens, a little bit.
Yeah. Instead of writing because he loves to write. And I feel like if you're a writer, that's, like, can be a tough decision because you want to make a lot of money and you want your book to be a success. But also, why are you writing? Yeah. And so, like, most of those authors are writing because they want to and they, like, live to write. But then they have to survive to write. Yeah. And so I think that's why sometimes people have, like, criticisms for authors is because they start writing because they're just trying to, like, make ends meet at the time when that was, like, their only way of surviving or making it through. So I think that's, like, an interesting thing to think about as well when you, like, consider, like, the authors that take their time and, like, just be like, enjoy it because you're writing to write because you like to write. Yeah. But I
think Frank Herbert was a little bit of both. He definitely wrote because they needed money. Yeah. But I also think he was so obsessed with writing. He had to be writing.
Yeah.
Like, he just had to be.
Yeah.
So,
I know.
interesting.
But anyways, food for thought, commodifying writing, is it bad or good? That was, like, kind of the spiel.
Yeah.
But we're going to get into our non-spoiler episode next. We hope you enjoy this. Hopefully it enhances your experience as you read Dune. And again, I'll link the audiobook because that's what got me through. But also it's so interesting, and honestly it's fast-paced, I feel like.
It's so fast-paced. Even, well, this is also just me. I also think world building is very interesting, but the way he writes it, even though I don't love his writing style, it's still very compelling.
Yeah.
Like, he can be explaining this world, and normally when it might feel like info dumping, it's like, whoa, this is so cool. Yeah, I want to learn more. I got to keep going with it.
Yes. So keep it up.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll
just have fun with it. If you don't understand all the terms or who the people are, it's okay.
I didn't.
Honestly, I still don't really.
I know, same. And like, someone will bring up a character that I totally forgot about. Because look at how big this is, okay?
It's so, it's long.
That's long. But
this is the longest one, though, I think.
Yes.
Is it? It's longer
looking at the other Dune books, they look...
It's definitely longer than the second one.
They look smaller. But anyways, good luck, you guys. We'll catch you in our next episode, and we are going to unpack
very excited.
all the things. So, bye.
Bye.